Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Game Worms. This is our second top 10. And you'll probably notice I've changed my background. I have some pretty flowers up here because we're going to be talking about the 10 prettiest games.
It's quite beautiful.
Thank you. And we'll talk about how you did this. So for how I chose my games for this list is I specifically thought of prettiest, not necessarily most eye appealing, because there's a lot of games that I thought of that were very appealing to the eye. But I wouldn't call pretty. Like, you know, something like Rune Wars I was thinking about. It's like, that's a really fun game to look at, but I wouldn't say it's pretty. So I didn't include it. I included games where I thought, this is something you could place on your table as a sort of like a set piece. You know, even if you're not playing, it would still look nice to have it laid out.
I like that.
What was your approach?
Yeah, I was a little bit different. I went with, what games strike me as like the best looking games. And like, I'm an avid board game player. So I kind of took it more of like, if I see this game sitting on a table and I haven't played it before, I would be intrigued to find out more about it. And I think that's kind of where I started with my list.
Well, it's an interesting you say that point, because there's 3 on this list that I've actually never played. I've only seen them. But because of how they looked, I thought, oh, that's a game I'd like to try, right? So even though I don't really know how to play them.
One of my unspoken rules for a top 10 list is I always try to make them games that I enjoy, games that I think are good. So I tend to leave out games that I haven't played. So that's probably worth
and I think
mentioning.
For most lists I would, but since I was going on the shallow judgment of just appearance, I thought for this list it would be all right just to judge based on looks. So I'll go ahead and go first. We'll give you last word today because I think I went first last time.
Sure.
All right, so my number 10, and this is one of the ones I actually haven't played before, but that's the Bob Ross Art of Chill. And
Art of Chill,
There's a couple Bob Ross games out there. Like there's the Happy Little Accidents. The Happy Little Accidents, the look of the game itself isn't as spectacular, and it looks like it's more just like a Pictionary sort of a game. Right. But the Art of Chill game, I remember seeing the box for that at a convention, and just really nice. Like, the reason it's number 10 is because there's not a lot of art to it. Like everyone seems to have some sort of a painting. As I don't know. Again, I don't know how this game's even played. There's all these paintings.
We actually have a copy at the board gaming cafe.
Okay.
Downtown. Yeah. I have actually played this game, and what it is there is an easel in front of all the players, and there's a piece of Bob Ross art on that easel, and then the players kind of take turns gaining colors and different brushes, and they have to play colors, which are cards off of their palette, along with a certain brush card from their hand in order to paint a piece of that picture.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So it looks nice. Like I really like the look of the paintings, and even the cover. You know, we have the Bob Ross. The hair has kind of a painting overlaid into it.
That's right.
So I just thought it was really nice looking. I had no idea how it was played, and so that's why it's at number 10. But I just visual appeal. I remember just seeing it in a lineup of other games, and that one just stood out to me. Something you could just lay those pictures out on your room, and it would look nice.
Yeah, for sure. Bob Ross has some great paintings in there, right? Yeah, it was neat. Like I've only played it the one time, but everybody kind of enjoyed it. It's a simpler game, simpler mechanics kind of thing. There's a lot of luck involved with the dice roll mechanic that they have in there, which was almost too bad. But on the same token, you keep it light. It's a fun game to play.
Yeah, kind of a family game sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, my number 10 is a heavy strategy game. It's a cooperative game where you are playing as the spirits of this island, and you are trying to defend it against the invading people. And it is called Spirit Island. So it's a larger game. It's got a somewhat modular map where you add an extra board per player as you play it. And yeah, like I said, everybody's playing their own unique spirit, and it sprawls out across the table pretty well. I like the game. It's actually one of my favorite games to actually play But just the look of all of the invader pieces, there's different type of pieces that go onto the board, and they kind of build up in size, as well as all of the artwork for all of the spirits is really intriguing to me. It's just kind of a different theme to a game, and it's almost like a tower defense-ish, if you will, because you're trying to defend your island, but it's like you're trying to push everything off of the island as best you can. But yeah, it's like I said, it's one of my favorite games, but that's my number 10. It's Spirit Island.
I actually really like that game too, and this one would be on my short list. I definitely did consider it, and I think I'm with it's one that I found very visually appealing. I just didn't know if I classified it as pretty as much as some of the other ones. So just going with my definition, it was definitely short list for me. So
that's where our definitions will be a bit different, because I'm looking at what I consider to be good looking games, not always pretty. And there's definitely a couple of my games here that I would definitely not classify as pretty. But they're cool looking, you know?
Which I'm happy with that definition too. And I did even consider that one still for mine.
Classify as pretty. But they're cool looking, you know?
Which I'm happy with that definition too. And I did even consider that one still for mine. My next one is Takenoko. And that is one where you are a farmer, basically of a bamboo farm. You're trying to, and you have to keep this panda fed. I've only played it once, so I don't really remember the lore of the game, but it's a pretty simple game. You just have little patterns. You get these cards with little patterns. You're either trying to get different terrains of the bamboo field together, or you're trying to get certain colors of bamboo growing into certain heights or whatever like that. And there's this little panda that goes around and eats things.
But
it's just a fun little game. It's a 3D build, right? So it's a game that builds upward. It's kind of got that nice visual. It's just nice visual appeal. It's very colorful. It's got these little panda and little farmer guys. So
it's a great pick. It's like you said, like the colors are actually really vibrant too, because you have this bright pink and a bright green and a bright yellow, or the different colors of the bamboo. And the way that it builds up into the stalks, like you can get multiple like 3 or 4 piece high little bamboo stalks, and it looks really cool. They've actually made a big box version of it as well. I haven't seen that one, but I've heard it's pretty impressive, where the the panda's like this tall kind of thing as it walks around the board. So it's quite a large production on that one. But I haven't seen that one, but I have played that game. It's a fun game too.
And it's another little one you could probably play with like your kids, or
for sure. Okay, my number 9 is it's a cooperative game. I have quite a few cooperative games in my collection. I'm a big co-op player. This one is more entry level, I would say, than Spirit Island. And the thing that I really like about it is there's this almost DM screen that you get in it. My number 9 is Mysterium. So one player in this game is playing as the ghost, and they get this massive screen in front of them where they're putting in all of these Dixit-style artwork pieces, and they're trying to point everybody at the table at a person, place, and a weapon that has killed them. And everybody kind of has their own combination that they're looking for, and you point them in the direction using these very strange artwork cards, if you will, where like I'll give you a picture of a polar bear kind of thing, and it's supposed to point you to the rug that's in this room, and that's the room that you're looking for, kind of thing. Now the ghost character is cooperating with all the other players. He's not allowed to talk, but he just communicates with these cards, and the cards look beautiful. There's a nice looking clock piece that goes to it to like count the number of turns, kind of thing, that you've had. And I think the components look great. Takes up a lot of room on the table, and that DM screen just gets me every time. So that's my number 9 is Mysterium. Okay, excellent. Which of course was on the list from you last time for Gateway Games. Great, it's a fantastic game. I really like that one as well. So my number 8 is Mystic Vale. I don't know, have you played that one before? Yep, I own a copy of Mystic Vale. I've not only played that, I've met John DeClaire, who made it, and I was in one of his instructional videos because originally when he pitched that game, he had pitched a different game, which with the same mechanic.
but it was a much more complex game. So they ended
Yeah, it
up,
was
I can't remember what it's called. I have played it.
Edge of Darkness or something.
Yeah, something like that. And
Yeah.
so I guess they think they wanted more. It's a really interesting concept where you have a couple different really pretty parts of this game. Is number one, you have these Vale cards, which are just really nice pictures of things like moraine lakes and forests and all sorts of things like that. And then you have these field cards with these. So you have this field card, which is like an opaque, piece of a card like most of them. But then you have these transparent cards with little pictures on them that overlay the field. And these will be things like unicorns, fairies, all sorts of, different plants and stuff like that you kind of put in your fields.
Mystical Vale-based creatures.
So yeah, there's so much artwork in it, and just it's a really nice looking game. And yeah, and I got to be a little instructional videos. They needed somebody in the video for him to explain his other game too. So, so I had to just like ask questions.
That's cool. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a really neat system. It's I guess a modular card system in that.
Yeah.
Where you're doing deck building, but it's a completely different way of deck building where you always have 20 cards in your deck and you're improving your cards instead of buying new ones and adding and removing cards from your deck. So
yeah, I think that's kind of his style. Game. So a lot of his games will have that sort of a feature to it.
Yeah, I think he did finally do that really big one that he was talking about. I know it came out.
Yeah, I played the pre-release version, but then it did get released. And then there's another one too, I think he made, where it's like a combat game. Yeah. Which is pretty fun, actually.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Okay. My number 8 is a very new game to me. Kickstarter just fulfilled kind of thing. And I set this thing up on the table and I was just like, this looks cool. The thing I think I like the most about this game is there's these little acrylic pieces. And so they have the really good artwork. And instead of using miniatures like so many games do in these bigger games, this one actually uses these acrylic standees instead. The game is called Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor. I think it's Curse of the Last Emperor. I might be wrong about that, but it's a new game. It was my foray into 4X games because I don't play a lot of 4X games. And this one was a cooperative 4X game. So figured, hey, let's give it a shot. I want to try a new genre for myself, and I love cooperative games. And this thing it looks really great. I also find that the game is super challenging, and I haven't figured out how to win it yet. So,
okay. I've actually never tried that one, but I love 4X.
Yeah.
So cooperative or not, so that's definitely one I'd be interested in looking into.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun because it's got I got it with the expansion, so I have 8 different factions that you can play as, and each of the factions has a hero to it, and each faction has 2 different heroes that you can play as. So you get to choose basically between 16 different armies to play as, and it's all interchangeable, right? So it's
nice.
It's got a lot of replay factor in that, and then it plays. It takes a long time to play, but it's quite fun, and it's quite easy to play. I found.
I think it's hard to have a good 4X game that doesn't take a long time to play.
Yeah. I definitely knew what I was getting into, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Threw that one on my list. The acrylic pieces really did it for me. That is Uprising, my number 8.
I'll definitely check that out. All right, so my number 7 is another one I haven't played yet. I've only seen it, but it looks really cool, is Photosynthesis. I cannot speak for the gameplay, but looking at it, it's another one where I feel like I could just set it on the table and it would just look really cool because it has something to do with planting trees. So the board has these trees, and then you have these little 3D standy tree sort of things that come up. So it's another game that kind of builds upwards. So you get like a really cool depth effect to it. But there's a couple other games that were similar to it that I looked at. But out of all of them, I like the color palette the best for Photosynthesis. Now, have you played this one before?
Yeah, just recently, actually, just a few months ago. So I actually considered putting it on my list. But in the game, you're kind of you're building up trees, like you were saying. You start from seedlings, and then on your turn, your action is either to improve one of your trees or start planting a new tree, kind of thing. And you use sunlight in order to do your action. So you basically get this currency of sunlight, and the sunlight all depends on where the sun is shining for that turn. So you have this kind of half semicircle that goes around the outside of the board, which represents the sun's direction, and then big trees block little trees. So it's kind of strategic of where you're planting, where you're growing your trees. Bigger trees get you more sunlight. Once you have the sunlight, then you can pay for your actions using those.
Okay, so it sounds kind of like mechanically an abstract sort of.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
All right, cool. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, you should give it a try sometime.
I definitely will.
All righty. Okay, my number 7 is also a bit of an abstract kind of strategy game. It was a lighter game than I kind of expected it to be, but I'm totally cool with that. It's a newer one, and it, again, was another Kickstarter that I got in, so I got the deluxe edition, which makes it look even better. This one's called Iwari. So the thing about Iwari that I really love is really the artwork of the cards. The cards themselves, the only thing that you need to know about the cards is what color they are, but they put on these drawings of these large spirits and that on the artwork of the card, and it just looks amazing. You also, like, your player components are these small tents, and every player gets unique components to it. You're also building up these totems in the middle of the board for one of the types of scoring in it, and every piece of the totem is a little bit unique in a different color kind of thing. So yeah, it looks really great on the table. They've got a bunch of different maps as well, which keep it fresh as you play different games. So that's why I've got Iwari as my number 7.
Nice. That's another one I haven't played. I feel like talking to you, I haven't played as many board games as I think I have.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've dedicated a good portion of my life to playing board games. So
well, COVID slowed me down a little bit. All right, so my next one is another one where I've had the opportunity to actually meet the creator and play with them before release. Is Bargain Quest, and so this was created by Jonathan Ying. The neat thing about this one is that it's there's so much a diversity of artwork, and it's all made by like him and his sister. And I think she works for Disney or something like that. So it's very cute looking, but there's a lot of extra attention to detail. So for example, there's so what the game is that you're in a town that is besieged by various monsters. But rather than being the heroes going to save the town, you are the sales people who are selling armor and weapons and magical items to the heroes. So
somebody's got to equip those noobs.
Yeah, well, what you want to make as much money as you can, but you also want the heroes to do well with your goods, right? So if your hero, so each hero will only go into one store. They won't go in the same store together. So each player will get hopefully a hero coming into their shop and buying something, but then you want that hero to do well. So if they do well, you get points for, if they either wound the monster or defend without getting killed, right?
Oh, that's cool.
But you each have your own shop, and even though each shop is mechanically the same, they're all very distinctly different art pieces. So each shop has its own very unique look to it, and even all the characters in the game, because there's like all the heroes and all the employees you can hire are all unique artwork. I think the only duplicate artwork, there might be a few items in the item deck which are replicated. But for the most part, it's all very unique cards and everything like that. So it's a pretty fun game too. I enjoy playing it as well.
Good. Yeah, it's one I haven't played that one. So you finally stumped me on one. So
all right, well, I'll bring it over sometime because I do own that one.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that'll be fun. Okay. Moving right along, my number 6, surprisingly enough, I've got another cooperative game on my list. This one is actually the girlfriend's game. She loves it. This one is a Ryan Lockett game, and it's a bigger Ryan Lockett game. I think the guy does an amazing job of basically doing everything for the games that he creates. My number 6 is Sleeping Gods. So the reason that I put this one on the list is really because of the book mechanic that it has. You have this ability to explore this world that he's created. And the way you explore it is by turning pages in an atlas-style book. So you turn to the next page, you put your little boat on it, and then you can move to the different places, and then you'll explore a place, and you get to this narrative-driven exploration where you're doing different challenges with the different characters. I love the way it looks on the table. You kind of feel like you're part of the crew because you're sitting there with a couple of your characters, and the captain's sitting in the middle because everybody gets to use the captain kind of thing. And then just it ends up sprawling across the table so much that it just intrigues me to no end every time I look at it on somebody's table. It's like, oh, what artifacts did they get? What kind of different adventuring cards? What did they buy from the shop kind of thing? Because there's a ton of cards and they all have different abilities and they all have unique artwork on it. And it just looks great to me. So that's my number 6 is Sleeping Gods.
Cool. And actually, it sounds like it has a lot of the elements that I enjoy in games, because I love narrative, I love exploration, I love theme. So it's definitely one I want to give a try as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds like it has a lot of the elements that I enjoy in games, because I love narrative, I love exploration, I love theme. So it's definitely one I want to give a try as well.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so my number 5 is our first duplicate today, and that is Mysterium.
Oh, excellent.
So there's a few games Mysterium like where we have kind of a lot of just really weird picture cards. So
yeah,
Fix-It's another one. I have another one in my closet. I can't remember what it's called, but I looked through them all, and I think Mysterium's got the most interesting looking cards, like the artwork style. And I think there's a couple different versions even of Mysterium. Isn't there like the Polish version artwork's different than the I think.
I'm not sure about that, but I know that there's a Mysterium Park, I think, is an expansion to Mysterium, which comes with a bunch of new cards. So.
Okay, yeah. But I think just looking through the cards, I think those are the ones I found the most interesting. And so that's the one I chose for this game. We talked about this on our last list of gateway games. It's a really fun game. It's kind of like Clue, but like way better.
Yeah.
Clue if Mr. Body's ghost came back and was trying to help the detective find the killer.
Yeah. Too bad more people don't help out the detectives when they've been killed, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure would make things easier.
Yeah. Why if I have a ghost when I die, I plan on helping as much as I can.
Yeah, there you go. Good. not just planning on haunting people and really giving them a hard time.
I can have the best of both worlds.
Right. Well, you probably have time if you're a ghost, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm gonna guess. I think we have at least one crossover on our list.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna spoil it.
All right. I can sense think it's still where it might be as well.
Yeah. So my number 5 is D6. It's a game by Certifiable Studios, and I don't remember the full title of the game, but it's something like Dungeons, Dames, Danger, Dragons, and Dice, or something like that. But what it is it's essentially a spoof on Dungeons and Dragons, and it's like a tabletop version of the RPG. You kind of feel like you're actually out there exploring and doing these things. You have your little character, and he runs around to different portions of the map, and then you fight monsters, and you're trading in those monsters for different bounties that you're trying to do throughout the game. They made a ridiculously huge production of this thing, to the point where some of the rules about the actions that you can take in town are actually made into signs, and you put together these signs and you actually put them up beside the board. And the coins are all in this fountain that you throw all of these shiny little plastic pieces into. The player boards look amazing. You get these small, I guess, resin pieces for like your potions and that in the game. It's a great production. I love the fact that the rule book looks like an old school Dungeons and Dragons player's manual as well. And it's almost as thick because of the amount of artwork and story and all that they put into this thing. I think it's a really great looking game. And that's my number 5 is D6.
That kind of sounds to me like it's somebody's passion project, which is always great because, like every detail gets looked at and it's carefully considered.
Yeah, I've been so happy with the games that I've gotten from Certifiable Studios because they're all that kind of scale of production. Another one is Who Goes There is an honorable mention for my list for sure. It's basically The Thing, the board game. And it's, neat games. Those guys do a great production job. If you're looking for a good looking game, check out Certifiable Studios.
Okay, cool. Now, I had a hard time coming up with pretty games without trying to think of something from CMON, particularly one of the Eric Lang CMON games. And there's quite a few, but I think the one that I would consider the prettiest is actually Rising Sun. So he's a lot of cool looking games that I went through, but then I'm like, you know what, Rising Sun, like the color palette, the pieces, the map, the board, the board is the feudal Japan.
The giant monsters.
Yeah, and even the monsters look cool, like pretty, kind of like like they have like the dragons and all that sort of thing. So it's a beautiful game, really nice colors in it. And so just to cover that kind of genre or that area of game, I thought this was their prettiest foot forward.
Cool. Yeah, I've only played Rising Sun once. I think I've played what's the other one? Blood Rage. I think I've played that one twice.
And Blood Rage is a lot of fun. It's just not as pretty.
Yeah, and I haven't played Ankh. So
well, you've played Arcadia Quest, haven't you?
Nope, haven't played that one yet. I know about it, but I just haven't played that one.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I've heard decent things. I've heard some bad things, but I've also heard decent things.
I like it.
Yeah, that's cool. So where are we at? We're number 4, right?
Yeah.
So my number 4 is Merchant's Cove. So when you were describing that other one that I can't remember now, it was the one where you were selling things to the
Bargain Quest.
Bargain Quest, that was it. Yeah. When you were explaining Bargain Quest, I was immediately thinking about Merchant's Cove. They sound like similar-esque games. In Merchant's Cove, you play as one of the merchants in this cove, in this village that is selling to adventurers. And the entire point of this game is to make the goods that the certain adventurers wants. If a thief comes in, he's going to want the thief goods that you can sell. The thing that makes this game really stand out is that every player is a completely asymmetric shop. So if you're the blacksmith, you're essentially playing your own game as the blacksmith, which is a dice manipulation game. If you're the alchemist, you're basically playing a potion explosion kind of game where if you mix the wrong chemical ingredients with these little round orbs that you have, your potion explodes and it sets you back in points. And so every merchant has their own type of good that they will make and sell. And the components on this game is what really puts it onto my list and makes it this high on my list. The fact that the people coming to buy your goods are all coming in on these small cardboard boats. And it took me like an hour and a half to actually put together all of these little cardboard components, but you're actually putting these little meeples into a cardboard boat and then you're moving it down the river to one of the docks. And every one of the merchants has their own stand where they're putting their goods, which is a little cardboard piece again, but it just makes it look really cool. And so, yeah, that's going to be my number 4 is Merchant's Cove.
You know, your description of it makes me kind of feel like it's a mix between Bargain Quest and Root. Like,
yeah.
You know, the asymmetry of Root.
That would be a good description of it. Yep. Yep.
All right, cool. So my number 3, I think it may be easy to guess that this would be on here, but it's Tokaido.
Tokaido, yeah.
Yeah, just because Tokaido, the box and the board and the car and like even though like the little player cards and stuff like that are very clean white background. I guess it's kind of a minimalist sort of pretty. So It's very clean white backgrounds on everything, very minimalist design, but then very nice colors and even like the character designs for the markers, the little pictures of all the different souvenirs and foods you can buy and things like that. So you have, of course, part of the game is actually collecting different parts of the painting. So you're actually building painting tableaus as you travel around. So you're actually getting little cards that kind of you stick together and they make larger paintings as you collect more and more pieces. So it's just another very, very attractive, but I think in a very simple, clean sort of a way that I really like.
Yeah. Tokaido is one of the games that I never care if I lose.
Yeah.
It's just
a Zen game.
It's a super fun, enjoyable experience. You can just sit back and just have a good journey through Tokaido. And of course, I'm trying to win every time, but if I lose Tokaido, that's fine. Yeah. It was, it's about the journey.
You can't lose a vacation.
There you go. Yeah.
Kind of the vacation of board games.
Yeah. Cool. Good pick. So my number 3, we're going back into co-op games again. A couple more on my list. This one is a fun game that I'll be honest with you, I don't often lose, but it always feels like I'm going to lose. And I think that's really powerful in a cooperative setting where the game always feels like it's on the edge of loss, but is still beatable. The game I've got for my number 3 is Atlantis Rising. The reason this one makes my list is really the board. If you've ever seen or played a game of Atlantis Rising, it's a very unique component of it. The board is basically a 6 peninsula island, if you will. So it has 6 kind of long legs, almost looks like a starfish of some form. And each segment of this board can be flipped over and as it falls into the ocean. Okay, so what you're doing is a worker placement game where you place out all of your workers, and then a bunch of these pieces of the island are going to flip over. And if your worker survived that flip, then you get to take your worker placement action and hopefully gain resources so that you can build all of this technology so that you can escape Atlantis, because Atlantis is sinking and you're trying to get out of there. So yeah, that's my number 3. And this one is probably one of the cooperative games that I feel plays almost similarly with a 2-player count versus like a 7-player count. And the thing that's great about it is like everybody takes all of their actions at the same time. So there's no like downtime in this game or whatever. Even when you're like flipping over cards to find out which pieces of the island get flipped over, you always get somebody else to draw the next card so that you can blame somebody for losing your worker, right? So that's my number 3, Atlantis Rising.
Yeah, good pick. I have played that one. That one, to be honest, didn't come to my mind, but I have played it before a long time, several years ago, a few years ago. Yeah, it's a really cool one. Yeah, good pick. It's a nice, interesting board shape and everything.
Yeah. And I guess I should mention as well that I am talking about Atlantis Rising 2nd edition. That's the one that I've played. That's the one that
I don't remember which
really
one
great.
I played. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I know it's the 1st edition that had been around for a while. I haven't actually seen the 1st edition, so.
Okay, my number 2 was on my list last week as a gateway game, and this is Wingspan. I think I'd be hard pressed to think of too many. Well, I obviously have one more that I think is a more attractive game, yep. but there's so much about it. Like the board itself, where you put all your cards and everything, is one of the most beautiful game set pieces that I can think of. Just the one that has all the terrain, like the forest, the plains, and the water biomes for all the birds. You have all the individual different bird cards. We talked about last time the little eggs that look like candy. The actual bird feeder that you use for rolling the dice. It's got like a dice tower that's shaped like a bird feeder, which is like the little moss textures and everything on it. Mm-hmm. Even the back of your board, like that you don't see, has this really cool kind of a leather texture painted onto it. So it's just absolutely gorgeous. Everything about that is just a beautiful little game there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a very pretty looking game. That one almost made my list. That one was definitely on my short list. So we got close. We got close to having that one. But yeah, good game. I don't play it enough. I'd need to try the game out a little bit more, and maybe that would hit higher on some of my lists if I played it more often. But yeah, cool. So my number 2, this is my entry into the really big dudes on a map. I've got so many miniatures that it's not even reasonable to have that many on the board. This is Mysthea, and it is a game from Tabula Publishing or Tabula Games. And I think that those guys have done an amazing job building this world of Mysthea. It's the second game, I guess, in a trilogy of games for them that all play completely differently. This one is one of my favorite ones. It's got dudes on a map, big area control, and the thing that I love about this map, other than the artwork, which is just amazing throughout everything, all the cards, all the miniatures look great, even the world itself, the art style on it is just blows my mind. It's such a cool world to kind of dig into. But the thing that I really like is that as you're playing the game, you're playing it on these 5 floating islands, and you actually pick up and move the islands to other places on the map. And so your characters can only move to adjacent islands, but suddenly this island that was over here for half the game is now across the board and is now adjacent to 2 completely different islands, kind of thing. Love it because it just adds to that strategy thing. And then your hero gets to move around and he gets to like basically plunk down his troops all over the place. And depending on who has the most troops in each location, you get different points and all of that. So yeah, that's my number 2, Mysthea. Really like the game, really big production, huge box, huge looking on the table. Love the minis too.
Yeah, I love those big box games.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm about to commit what some people might call a blasphemy, simply because for my number 1 pick, I did pick a game I've never played, but it's also the game that I think, looking at it the most, It's the one that I would be most inclined to play. Like if you put a whole bunch of games out on a table that I had never played before and asked me to pick one, and this was on there, this would be the one that I would pick, just based entirely on the artwork without knowing anything about them, right? And that is Everdell.
Everdell, okay.
Yeah, so even the box cover, I think, is absolutely beautiful. It's got these little like anthropomorphic animals, like, you know, think Robin Hood, and maybe that's kind of why it's sticking in my mind, because I think there's this little badger that looks like, I think it was Friar Tuck, I think, in the cartoon.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Redwall, the book series. I don't know if you know that one with Martin the Warrior in that.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So it has that kind of a look. But even the board has this really cool, interesting shape. It's kind of like a forest, and it has this big set piece, which is a big tree with all these different layers on it.
Yep.
And so in the box itself, I think, is absolutely beautiful. But then even the game kind of laid out, it just has a really interesting and kind of a gorgeous. And again, it's one that looks kind of like a set piece. It's kind of, instead of a square board, it looks like a rounded sort of a thing. So I just thought it looked really awesome. And that's, out of all the games on my list, if I had never played any of them and you were to just lay them out on a table and I had to pick one, it would probably be that one.
Cool. Yeah, I've played Everdell a couple of times. It's actually a lot thinkier than I thought it would be when I first started it. Because you look at it, you see like all the kind of cute woodland creatures. It's almost got that root vibe to it, you know, where it's like it's got this almost cutesy art to it, but it's really a good strategy game. I enjoy it. I backed the big collector's edition, so I'll get it eventually.
Oh, but, so you don't have it yet, but it's coming.
I don't have it yet, but it's coming. Yeah.
I'd be curious to see the collector's edition to see what more they have.
Yeah, a few expansions to it, adds different boards, adds different meeple types. I think it's a great pick for this list. Yeah, I probably should have thought about that one when I was putting it together. That may have made my list if I had remembered that it existed, but at the time I had forgotten it. So good pick. So my number one, which is the best looking game of all time, and I'm surprised wasn't on your list, actually. This is the one I thought we would cross over with. Nice cooperative game made by the folks at Riot Games. It's Mechs versus Minions.
Yeah, I did think about it.
Yeah, love the way this thing looks. All of the miniatures, they just did a fantastic job with. Every component is great. Every insert is just perfect. And I love that in a game when you have this perfect insert that everything just fits in. The art is kind of cartoonish, but done really well. And yeah, I love the way it looks, because you have all of these little minis all over the place, and you can very clearly tell, like, these are the heroes of the story. And these are all those little minions that they're just going to walk over as we go through this, campaign. But yeah, I'm a big fan of League of Legends. I think I've said that in a couple of videos and that, but yeah, it really hit with me. I think it was a great production, especially for the price of the game. And yeah, that's my number one. Pretty sure it was my number one the last time I did a list about good looking games.
And it deserves it. And you know what? And I don't know if you've seen Arcane yet, or if we talked about that before.
Yeah.
But I recognize that one guy in Arcane from Mechs versus Minions.
Yeah, I loved Arcane. It was great.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. And the only reason it didn't make my list was, again, just we defined pretty a little differently. Because I definitely, when you talk about attractive games, that certainly popped in my head. But then I was like, it's very attractive. It looks awesome. But is it pretty? I decided, well, no, it's not as pretty as the other ones.
Yeah,
it
that's definitely a fair point.
Looks
that's
awesome.
A fair point.
Yeah. So just a definition difference, but it's definitely up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Appearance. All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much. You got any more final words?
No, not really. I think I covered most of the good ones. I ended up with like a short list of almost 25 games.
Oh wow!
So I have a lot of games that I really like the look of. Yeah. Like it's become a normal thing in the industry, right? Is especially because I get most of my games through Kickstarter these days. That those Kickstarter productions seem to be like huge, right?
Well, I think they you almost have to, because this isn't like when I was a kid and there were like 6 board games in the store. This is very full market now. So if you want to stand out on Kickstarter, you really got to get your artwork game going.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, just like these 10 that I picked, like these are the ones that I think are really good. And I tried to not pick too many from the same genre, right? Like I tried to not just pick everything that was just dudes on a map, right?
Yeah.
But there's so many good looking games out there.
There are quite a few. Like Kemet would have been high on my list, I think. as well, but didn't quite make it. But yeah, great list. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And I guess we'll see everybody again pretty soon.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.